image way more faster comparing if you were trying to like render it manually using non-real-time renderer. And from there you can take all these frames and you can basically start polishing them in Photoshop. Cool. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, Eevee, it's just the beginning. I'm pretty sure it's gonna get only better and better with time, and as you get more tools, the renders will get more and more realistic, which means you need to spend less time waiting, and that means you can spend more time with your family and basically have more free time, just as we all want to have. All right, have a good one. Thank you very much, guys, and I see you very soon. Thank you very much.